Hi, I'm GM Comfortable Gray, and I'm here to show you my response to the Daggerheart beta playtest being released. There is not a native Foundry VTT world for this, so I taught myself how to use the Simple Worldbuilding system, and that way, I also learned how to play basically any game using Foundry VTT. And then I had to make my own character sheet. When you start the Simple Worldbuilding system, these are going to be assumed to be the health and the power or energy or whatever they really want it to be. I decided instead, because they're the most easy factors to manipulate, I'm going to use these as whatever the player character's classes are going to need. I put the player character pronouns up front, but I also want you to know that Foundry has a pronoun system built into it. Next, you need to put in your heritage, which is going to be a mixture of your ancestry and your community. Ancestry being basically what species you are, community being what your upbringing was like. Next is your class. There are 9 classes in Daggerheart, what level your character is, and we'll all be starting at level 1. And then the domains that class gives you access to, which is sort of like the different decks you can use to build some of your character's abilities. I put in a number of the class features, all of the foundations for the subclasses. The subclasses have 3 tiers, and I'm only going to be doing this as a level 1 for my playtest. Later on, I might update this after I share with everybody, but for now, I'm only putting the level 1 options. And here's an inline roll that allows you to roll advantage or disadvantage. It's just a d6, so you can manually subtract or add this to your roll afterwards. The way advantage works in Daggerheart is you just roll a d6 and you add it or subtract it to your result. I made macros for all of the different character traits. That way it's going to not only be rolling them and adding your attribute and subtracting any penalties you might have, but I also have it so it's going to be doing it in the duality dice style. So why don't we go to our attributes now? This is the part that took the most learning for me. I had to add all these attributes and decide what I wanted the keys to be. So I've got the core, which is going to be all of the basic character traits, plus your evasion and your proficiency. Then I decided to call them your derived traits, which is your character's armor, their armor slots, their hope, their hit points, their stress, and their damage thresholds. There's an abstract wealth system in this game, so rather than selling and buying things in single gold coins, it's going to be handfuls of gold. 1 handful of gold is the smallest amount of money you can have, and once you get 6 handfuls of gold, it's going to roll over into your first bag of gold. And I have a macro set up to facilitate this. And the last thing I did today, before I was confident in releasing this video, was I created a penalty box, because there are a bunch of abilities or factors that might cause your character to have a long-term penalty. This is just a place you can manipulate. This is just a place you can record that. I also made the Z value attribute, because every once in a while I'm going to have a macro that manipulates multiple things, but I want something to be stored. So this is basically my storage value, which is going to be changing on the fly. The basic character template also includes the basic items all characters are going to be starting with. Additionally, they're going to get a choice of a minor health potion or a minor stamina potion, and then another choice that's going to depend on whatever class you've chosen. If you couldn't tell by the hat, I'm going to choose a wizard. I'm going to duplicate that template, configure ownership for it, and then make it belong to my spectator. That's usually what I use for my secondary screen. And now my spectator can see it. And you can see here, I've already inputted all of the basic derived traits from the class. That's your damage thresholds, your domains, your basic class features. And these are all items that I already created for the system. As often as possible, I tried to use the Foundry VTT icons, but especially for the cards, I did have to use some of the Daggerheart art and assets. Of course, I didn't have the time in just these few days since the playtest was released in order to retype everything, and it's all copyright by Darrington Press. I do not own any of these assets. All I've done is compile them into a Foundry VTT world. We can go ahead and go through creating our character. Because the class is the part that's going to be adjusting your play experience more than anything else, that's what you're going to start with. We chose a wizard. Next, we're going to choose our heritage. Start with our ancestry. I'm a human, so I've chosen human. All you need to do is click and drag that onto the sheet after you make it editable. So let's click on here to make it an editable sheet, and we're going to drag this item right into this slot. It's things like this which are why I say that this is a serviceable but somewhat ugly character sheet. I'm going to do the same thing for the community. I've chosen Loreborn. I'm going to go ahead and save that, and you can see it populates automatically. I'm editing this on my spectator view, but once I hit save, that's when it's going to populate onto my GM screen. Now when I click on any of these, it's going to pop up the relevant item information. And it's as simple as that. So if I ever have a question about what it is, it's very easy to navigate the locked character sheet. We'll go back into editing mode, and I'll add my subclass. It's got to be the School of Knowledge. And now I'm going to modify my attributes. In the current playtest, you're given a standard array of character traits. It's going to be a -1, 2 zeros, 2 ones, and a 2. Because knowledge is my spellcasting trait, I'm going to go knowledge first. Because I often like to do a little bit of skullduggery, I'll go agile and finesse. And though I have carried a lot of books around, my strength is going to be -1. And those automatically populate on the character sheet. So I'm going to go back to the chat screen. Now, one flaw of the system is that in order to properly manipulate the character sheet, you need to make sure the character is assigned to that player. I'm going to click on the bottom left here, right click, and then user configuration. Then I'll make sure he's going to be controlling the wizard template. Save configuration. And now when that player clicks on this script macro, it's going to roll the duality dice and add the modifier for agility and subtract any penalties I might have put in there. We see a black die and a white die. It'll automatically go to tell me which one is which and then add them together. I'm very proud of this macro I created. I have to confess that I'm not a coder, I'm not a software engineer at all. I'm just a game master who really likes to play. And so what I've done is I've used experience from what other macros people have made, notes people have made on the Foundry VTT Discord and Reddit, and one of my talents is adapting those kinds of things to my purposes. And so that's what a majority of the macros I'll have here on the bottom. And also what I've put into this world, this comes not just from recent knowledge, but something I've learned over the year or more that I've been using Foundry VTT and been a professional game master because I hold a certain standard for my games. I also have macros for increasing and decreasing your armor slot usage, which I'm going to tell you once you hit the bottom, or when you've hit the top. Same thing with hit points, as well as hope and stress. For your character's wealth, I only have the +1 and -1, but still going to roll over and show properly how it goes up. I don't expect that in your first few sessions, you're going to be getting more than a few handfuls of gold. If you manage to amass even a chest, I'll be very impressed. If you want to more quickly adjust it, you're going to need to go to the attributes and just do that manually. I also have your background and connection questions already imported as a table, so when you hit edit, all you need to do is type in your answers on this side and then hit the save button to have them recorded. Same basic idea for your character's description. And then if you do any advancements, if you decide to take your campaign beyond level 1 using Foundry VTT and my Simple Worldbuilding system, then you're going to be able to just put X's into these advancement boxes and manually update things as you go along. The last thing you need to do to make your character before equipment, which I've already basically shown you, is you're going to need to create your player hand. By rules as written, you're supposed to have a card for your character's ancestry, for their community, for their class, the subclass, all those things. For simplicity, because I don't want to have to make too many cards, I'm only having the domain cards into your character's hand. This also means I get to show off the card hand mini toolbar module, which I use mostly for Savageworlds or to display safety cards during my games. Assuming that your game master has assigned ownership of a hand to you, then you can just click on this little gear button and choose the hand. In Daggerheart, you're going to have a hand and a vault. A hand is all the cards that you're currently using, up to 5 domain cards, while a vault is all the cards you own, which aren't currently in your hand. Well, normally it looks like I'm going to have the game master assign the cards to people. If you wanted to have it random, which is what I'll do today, I'm just going to hit the plus button to draw a card, choose the deck, and then let's draw it. And then one from Splendor. If I want to get a closer look at these cards, I can click on the stack windows. And some cards have limited uses for short rest or long rest. You can right click on them in order to flip them over, in order to signify that they have been used. And then I would just make sure to have recorded all of these things. I would probably write the card names in my card vault, or I'm going to be having items to represent the different powers for them, and you can drag them over. And that's the basics of how my Daggerheart Foundry VTT world is coming along. I hope you try Daggerheart. Let me know how you do it. Once I play the game, that's when I'll be releasing my review. Thank you so much for taking the time to watch my video. Happy gaming to you.